Bahrain's most prominent human rights defender has been released from prison after serving a 2-year jail sentence. Nabeel Rajab says he was held in dire conditions and subjected to abuse, including being placed in solitary confinement with a dead animal and kept almost naked. After his release on Saturday, he was welcomed by hundreds of supporters and paid a visit to his mother's grave. Rajab says he's shocked at how much the rights situation in Bahrain had worsened during his time in prison. But he insists he will continue to struggle against discrimination. Well, to give you an idea, a better idea, I should say, of what he's been through, let's now take a look at this. Nabeel Rajab was a founder of the Bahrain Center for Human Rights back in 2002, and over the next 9 years carried on with his rights work more or less openly. But his real problems began with the Bahraini uprising when he began speaking out against the brutal crackdown on protesters in March 2011. In March, when dozens of armed men broke into his home, detained and beat him, letting him go after an interrogation. And next month, tear gas canisters were fired at his 78-year-old mother's house. In December of that year, Rajab began receiving death threats on Twitter from a retired security official. And 5 months later, he was detained after being on Julian Assange's show. That was aired here on our channel. And in August, Rajab was sentenced to 3 years in prison for organizing and participating in gatherings that authorities say were aimed at overthrowing the monarchy. An appeals court reduced his term by a year in December. And my colleague Paul Scott talked to Nabeel Rajab in his first TV interview since being released. And here's what he had to say.
Being in jail itself is a violation for my right of expression. The putting me in jail for the past 2 years, trying to distance me from my people. In fact, I was kept in isolation in the past 2 years. I was not kept in a proper jail, as with the other couple of thousands of political prisoners. But I was kept separate in a separate building for 2 years, just to make sure that I don't connect with the other prisoners. So 2 years I was not discussing any kind of political or human rights situation of Bahrain. After 2 years, I have made a lot of things, wrote a lot of things in jail in the past 2 years. When I came out also, even those books that I have made of what I have been through were taken from me in the last moment before I come out.
You've spoken about the isolation that you suffered. How did you remain strong throughout the 2 years, and what are your plans now?
The belief in the cause that I'm holding, the belief in the values that I'm fighting for keeps me going. It is not an easy thing, especially I have lost my mother, I have lost my auntie, I have lost my cousin, I have lost my uncle, I have lost my cousin daughter, lost many friends who happened to lose their life while I'm in prison. It was a difficult thing, but after all, the aim that I am holding, the value I am fighting for, it keeps me going, knowing that a lot of people are waiting for me. A lot of people needs me to be out, needs me to be focused, strong as ever. Kept me going. Physically, maybe I was tortured once only, but I have witnessed other people being tortured in front of my eyes. And I have seen people being tortured by police, bleeding and all that.
So what sort of situation have you come out to in Bahrain now? What's the situation like in the country as we speak?
All people, human rights activists like me, who are behind bars today in Bahrain. And that's why you see this kind of violence. Situation is worse, and the gap between the political power and the people is wider. The ruling family, for the past 3 years, theoretically they're talking about dialogue, but in reality there was no dialogue, and yet I don't see any close by dialogue. As you know, we've been ignored by the international community because Bahrain is, with the Gulf and Saudi, part of the rich part of the world, which has a lot of influence in the West, treating each country in different manner based on the financial background or arms sales. That will not help the credibility of the Western countries. And this is what's happening. Unfortunately, we see Western country ignoring completely our struggle for justice and democracy in this part of the world.